This is the Sleep Historian. Each night we explore the echoes of the past, stories told slowly to calm the mind and ease you towards sleep. If you enjoy these quiet journeys through time, please like and subscribe, and let the next story begin. Before palaces, banners, and legend, there is water. The Nile moves slowly under a pale dawn sky, its surface silvered by first light. Reeds sway in a gentle current, and distant ibis lift into quiet flight. The air smells of silt and warm earth, carrying the calm rhythm of a river that has shaped lives for thousands of years. Along its banks stand silent temples, their stone faces softened by time. Nothing stirs loudly. Egypt lies in a steady breath between past and future. In this hush, a final chapter waits. From this ancient landscape will rise Cleopatra, Egypt's last ruler. As the sun climbs higher, Egypt reveals a world both enduring and fragile. Fields stretch in neat bands along the river, green against the vast desert beyond. Farmers guide oxen through soft soil, their movements unhurried. Yet beyond this calm labor, the 1st century BCE brings tension. Rome expands aggressively across the Mediterranean, absorbing kingdoms and reshaping power. In Alexandria, Egypt's thriving capital, scholars debate, merchants bargain, and politics simmer beneath marble colonnades. The Ptolemaic dynasty, once confident, now faces uncertainty. Within this shifting world, a young princess begins her path. Cleopatra's story rises quietly from this fragile calm. Time drifts back to Cleopatra's early years. Born in 69 BCE into the Ptolemaic royal family, she grows up in Alexandria's palace complex overlooking the sea. The corridors smell of incense and polished stone. Servants move with soft footsteps, carrying scrolls and trays of fruit. A young Cleopatra traces her finger along carved hieroglyphs, curious about the language of the ancient land she rules. Unlike many of her ancestors, she listens to tutors in Egyptian, Greek, and other tongues, absorbing knowledge with steady focus. Her childhood is not carefree, but shaped by expectation, a quiet preparation for leadership. Walk into the palace library, influenced by the vast traditions of Alexandria's famous scholarly center. Tall shelves rise toward painted ceilings, holding scrolls wrapped in linen. Dust motes drift through sunbeams, turning the room golden. Scholars speak softly, their voices almost blending with the rustle of papyrus. Cleopatra sits at a low table, studying astronomy and philosophy. She dips a reed pen into ink, making careful notes. Her hand pauses briefly, steadying her breath. Education becomes her foundation, giving her tools to navigate a complex political world. Knowledge, not luxury, becomes her quiet advantage in a turbulent dynasty. Beyond the palace walls, Alexandria pulses with movement. Broad streets lined with colonnades stretch toward the harbor. The scent of salt and fish mingles with spices from distant markets. Ships from Greece, Syria, and Rome unload cargo while dockworkers call instructions. A young Cleopatra observes from a balcony, watching the city's diverse crowds. Traders gesture over goods, and sailors tie knots into thick ropes. The bustling port reminds her that Egypt's wealth flows through trade and diplomacy. The city's openness stands in contrast to the tension within the royal family, hinting that outside forces may shape Egypt's fate. Inside the royal chambers, political uncertainty lingers. The Ptolemaic dynasty is marked by rival siblings and shifting alliances. Cleopatra's father, Ptolemy XII, struggles to maintain his throne and often relies on Roman support. In a dim council room, he consults advisors while tapping a scroll's edge with his fingertip. His voice is low, measured with concern. Cleopatra watches silently, absorbing the fragile balance between power and dependency. The presence of Roman envoys in the palace corridors signals Egypt's vulnerability. Even in her youth, Cleopatra senses that ruling will require more than birthright. It will demand strategy and resilience. Rituals connect the dynasty to Egypt's ancient traditions. In a temple courtyard, priests burn incense before a statue of Isis. The smoke rises in thin spirals, perfuming the warm air. Cleopatra stands nearby, hands folded, observing the ceremony. Her cloak brushes against smooth stone as she shifts her weight. Though her family is Macedonian Greek in origin, she recognizes the importance of honoring Egyptian beliefs. The quiet reverence of the moment imprints on her. A ruler must be seen not only as monarch, but as a bridge between cultures. This understanding shapes her identity long before she reaches the throne. As Cleopatra grows older, tensions sharpen. Rival claimants within the royal family maneuver for influence. Whispers echo through marble hallways. Courtiers bow with polite smiles, their true loyalties shifting like sand. In a secluded garden, Cleopatra reads a diplomatic record, her thumb lightly tracing the edge of the scroll. She learns that alliances can collapse without warning. The calm rustle of palm leaves above her offers little comfort. She understands that survival in this world requires clarity and poise. The political atmosphere encourages caution, preparing her for decisions where hesitation could mean exile or worse. The palace guards, with their polished helmets and steady routines, symbolize both security and suspicion. Along a colonnaded passage, armored footsteps echo in measured rhythm. Cleopatra watches from behind a lattice screen as her father confers with Roman emissaries. A Roman seal glints in torchlight, marking agreements that tie Egypt closer to foreign power. A guard adjusts the strap of his cuirass, the leather creaking softly. Cleopatra senses that Rome's influence is no passing presence. The quiet scene reveals a growing shadow, a reminder that Egypt's destiny will unfold not only within its own walls, but under Rome's gaze. In 51 BCE, Cleopatra ascends to the throne alongside her younger brother, Ptolemy XIII. The coronation takes place in a grand hall, adorned with painted columns and flickering oil lamps. The air smells faintly of lotus blossoms. Citizens gather outside, offering prayers for stability. Cleopatra stands tall, her gold diadem catching the light. Yet beneath the ceremony's splendor lies uncertainty. Power is shared, and factions support her brother, threatening her position. As she steps away from the dais, her hand brushes the cool stone of a pillar. The gesture reflects both resolve and awareness. Her reign begins amid tension. Cleopatra's early rule becomes a struggle for control. Tensions escalate between her and Ptolemy XIII, each backed by rival advisors. In a council chamber, raised voices fill the air. though Cleopatra remains composed, speaking in calm, measured tones. A map of Egypt lies unrolled on a table, its edges held down by small bronze weights. She points to key regions, emphasizing alliances and resources. Her strategic mind contrasts with the volatility around her. The room's dim lantern light highlights her steady gaze. The conflict grows, and soon Cleopatra finds herself pushed from power, forced to consider exile as a path to survival. Exiled from Alexandria, Cleopatra travels eastward. The desert stretches before her, vast and quiet. Sand shifts gently beneath the hooves of her caravan's camels. The air holds a dry heat, carrying only the faint sound of wind. Wrapped in a simple cloak, Cleopatra watches the horizon, her expression calm. A servant hands her a water skin, and she grips it lightly, feeling the cool surface. The journey offers space for reflection. Far from palace intrigue, she contemplates how to reclaim her throne. The stark landscape mirrors her predicament, stripped of comfort, yet full of possibility for those who endure. Meanwhile, Rome's civil war draws Julius Caesar to Alexandria. Seeking to settle debts and mediate the royal dispute, Caesar occupies the palace. His presence shifts the balance of power. In a candlelit chamber, Roman standards hang from the walls. Caesar examines documents, his fingers tapping softly on the desk. Ptolemy XIII's advisors hope to secure Rome's favor, but Cleopatra understands the moment differently. She recognizes that gaining audience with Caesar may determine Egypt's future. The quiet tension within the palace signals a turning point. One meeting could restore her position or end her claim entirely. Cleopatra famously arranges to meet Caesar in secret. The night air is cool as she approaches Alexandria by boat, its hull gliding silently across the harbor. Stars shimmer above the water. Wrapped discreetly in bedding or a rug, details later retold in legend, she is carried into the palace. A servant's hands tighten briefly around the fabric before setting her down. When Caesar unrolls the covering, Cleopatra rises with composed grace. The small chamber glows with lamplight, casting soft shadows. This quiet, calculated entrance leaves an impression, intelligence paired with boldness. The path back to power begins here. In the days that follow, Cleopatra and Caesar meet to discuss Egypt's fate. They speak of governance, stability, and Rome's interests. In a private room overlooking the harbor, waves lap against stone foundations. Cleopatra gestures toward a scroll detailing Egypt's resources, her fingers lightly brushing its surface. Caesar listens, arms folded, weighing her words. The conversation is calm, deliberate. Cleopatra's command of languages and knowledge of politics impresses him. Their connection becomes both strategic and personal, forming an alliance that shifts the balance against her brother's faction. The foundation of her restored rule takes shape through measured dialogue. Conflict erupts in Alexandria as Ptolemy XIII's forces resist. The city becomes tense, though scenes remain strangely quiet. Smoke rises from distant skirmishes, drifting above whitewashed buildings. In a courtyard, soldiers adjust shields and spears, preparing for confrontation. One man tightens the strap of his helmet, knuckles briefly whitening. Caesar's troops defend the palace, while Cleopatra remains within its walls, focused on securing legitimacy. The struggle is less a grand battle than a series of strategic maneuvers. Eventually, Ptolemy XIII flees and reportedly drowns in the Nile. The tide turns, and Cleopatra's position strengthens. Following the conflict, Cleopatra is reinstated as ruler, this time alongside her younger brother Ptolemy XIV. The coronation is quieter, marked by relief rather than grandeur. In a temple near the harbor, priests chant softly, their voices echoing against stone columns. Cleopatra stands beside her brother, her hand resting lightly on a ceremonial staff. Outside, citizens gather in small clusters, murmuring about renewed stability. The air smells faintly of incense and sea breeze. Cleopatra's gaze remains steady, aware that Rome's presence enabled her return. Her restored reign begins with cautious optimism and a deeper understanding of power's fragility. Cleopatra and Caesar spend time together along the Nile. Traveling upriver, their barge glides through calm waters. Lotus flowers drift beside the hull, and palm trees sway gently in warm wind. Cleopatra points out ancient temples, describing their significance with quiet pride. Caesar listens, hands clasped behind his back. The journey strengthens their alliance and symbolizes Egypt's resilience. A small child on the riverbank waves, and Cleopatra lifts her hand in response, her bracelets catching sunlight. The peaceful scene hints at a momentary harmony, a rare pause in a life marked by political turbulence. In 47 BCE, Cleopatra gives birth to a son, Caesarion. Within the palace nursery, soft linen cloths hang from carved wooden frames. A nurse rocks the infant gently, humming a low melody. Cleopatra watches, her hand resting lightly on the edge of a cradle. The birth carries political weight, linking Egypt's future to Caesar. Rumors spread through Alexandria's streets, whispered among merchants and scholars. The quiet scene represents both personal joy and strategic complexity. Cleopatra envisions continuity for her dynasty, even as uncertainty surrounds Rome's reaction. The moment marks a new chapter, intertwining family and state. As Caesar departs for Rome, Cleopatra returns to governance. In the palace's audience hall, she receives petitions from officials and envoys. Sunlight filters through high windows, warming the marble floor. A scribe reads reports on grain shipments, his voice steady and clear. Cleopatra listens attentively, fingers resting on the arm of her throne. She issues directives with calm authority, focusing on economic stability and diplomatic ties. Her leadership emphasizes pragmatism over spectacle. The quiet efficiency of the hall reflects her commitment to strengthening Egypt's position, ensuring its prosperity amid shifting regional politics. Seeking to present Egypt's strength to Rome, Cleopatra famously visits Caesar in 46 BCE. In Rome, she stays in a villa along the Tiber River. The air smells of pine and distant hearth smoke. Crowds gather outside, curious about the foreign queen. From a shaded balcony, she observes the city's bustling streets, noting its power and ambition. A servant adjusts her cloak, smoothing the fabric near her shoulder. Cleopatra's presence in Rome is both admired and controversial. She understands the delicacy of her position, a sovereign ruler navigating the heart of an expanding empire. Cleopatra witnesses Caesar's triumphal celebrations, though Egypt is not paraded among the conquered. In a vast forum decorated with banners, Romans cheer loudly. Bronze statues gleam under the sun. Cleopatra watches from a private vantage point, expression composed. The spectacle highlights Rome's dominance, yet her exclusion from the display reinforces Egypt's unique status. A Roman official rolls a scroll, hands trembling slightly from excitement. The scene underscores the delicate balance between respect and rivalry. Cleopatra recognizes that Egypt must maintain autonomy while acknowledging Rome's power, a truth that shapes her strategies moving forward. In 44 BCE, Caesar is assassinated. News reaches Cleopatra swiftly. In her Roman residence, a messenger bows deeply, voice low as he delivers the report. Cleopatra's hand pauses mid-motion, fingers resting on the edge of a table. The atmosphere thickens with uncertainty. Without Caesar's support, her position becomes precarious. She decides to return to Egypt, understanding that distance may offer safety. The quiet moment reflects a turning point, the loss of an ally, and the opening of a turbulent new chapter in Roman politics. Cleopatra departs Rome, her mind focused on preserving her throne and her son's future. Back in Alexandria, Cleopatra resumes rule with renewed purpose. In a council room overlooking the sea, she meets with advisors to discuss trade, defense, and internal reforms. The scent of parchment and ink fills the space. A map of the Nile Delta lies stretched across a table, held flat by bronze weights. Cleopatra leans over it, tracing waterways with her fingertip. Her decisions aim to stabilize the kingdom, strengthen its economy, and prepare for unpredictable Roman developments. The steady rhythm of waves against the shore offers a quiet counterbalance to the complex political landscape she navigates. Cleopatra promotes cultural revitalization, embracing both Greek and Egyptian traditions. In a temple dedicated to Isis, she participates in ceremonies as pharaoh, wearing traditional regalia. Priests chant in low, resonant tones, their voices echoing through the hall. She pours a libation at the altar, the liquid shimmering in torchlight. Her actions solidify her image as a ruler connected to Egypt's ancient heritage. Citizens view her as both queen and divine representative, fostering loyalty. The ceremony reflects her understanding that cultural unity strengthens political authority, weaving identity and governance into a single, steady fabric. Tensions in Rome intensify as Mark Antony and Octavian emerge as key figures in the power struggle. Envoys bring news to Alexandria, delivering scrolls sealed with wax. In a reception hall, Cleopatra listens as a messenger describes shifting alliances. A servant places a cup of water on a low table, the ceramic rim catching light. Cleopatra's gaze remains calm, yet thoughtful. She senses that Egypt's future will be shaped by Rome's internal conflicts. The quiet exchange foreshadows her next monumental alliance, one that will influence both her destiny and the fate of her kingdom. Cleopatra meets Mark Antony in 41 BCE. Sailing to Tarsus, she arrives on a lavish barge, adorned with purple sails and gilded decorations. The scent of incense drifts across the river. Musicians play soft melodies, their flutes echoing over water. Antony stands on the shore, watching her approach. Cleopatra steps onto the dock with poised grace, her bracelets glinting in sunlight. The meeting blends diplomacy and spectacle, capturing Antony's attention. Their alliance begins not with haste, but with careful conversation. The calm scene marks the start of a partnership that will shape the next phase of Egypt's history. In Alexandria, Cleopatra hosts Antony in the palace. Banquets unfold in torch-lit halls, though beneath the celebration lies strategic intent. Musicians perform gentle harmonies, and servants pour wine into silver cups. Cleopatra and Antony speak privately, discussing Rome's politics and Egypt's needs. A servant adjusts a curtain, the fabric whispering against stone. Their connection deepens, both personal and political. Antony's presence in Egypt signals a shift in allegiances. The quiet conversations between them lay groundwork for cooperation against Octavian, who rises steadily in Rome. The atmosphere blends warmth and calculation, foreshadowing future challenges. Cleopatra and Antony form a powerful alliance. In a study lined with scrolls, they review maps of eastern territories. Antony traces a route along the Levantine coast, while Cleopatra highlights key trade centers with her fingertip. The room smells of ink and burning oil lamps. Decisions are made deliberately, aiming to strengthen their combined influence. A wax tablet rests nearby, recording agreements. Their partnership offers mutual benefits: military support for Antony, security and autonomy for Cleopatra. The calm, focused scene reflects a rare moment of alignment between personal bonds and political goals. Cleopatra bears twins, Alexander Helios and Cleopatra Selene. In the palace nursery, sunlight streams through latticed windows, illuminating soft linen bedding. A nurse cradles one infant, humming a gentle tune. Cleopatra touches the tiny hand of the other, her expression serene. The births symbolize a deepening alliance between Egypt and Antony. Rumors spread through Alexandria's streets, filling markets with quiet speculation. The moment carries both joy and political implication, linking future generations to two powerful leaders. The nursery's tranquility contrasts with the turbulent world beyond, offering a brief pause in an otherwise complex life. Antony grants Cleopatra lands and titles, expanding Egypt's influence. In a ceremonial hall, courtiers bow as decrees are read aloud. Scrolls are unfurled, their edges curling slightly. Cleopatra stands beside Antony, her posture dignified. The event strengthens her position and enhances Egypt's regional power. A scribe marks the announcements with precise strokes of his stylus. Though the ceremony is composed, the implications are significant. Rome watches these developments closely, wary of rising Eastern authority. The calm proceedings mask an undercurrent of tension, hinting at future confrontations with Octavian's faction. In 34 BCE, the donations of Alexandria declare Cleopatra and her children rulers of various territories. The announcement takes place in a grand theater. Draped banners flutter lightly in the breeze. Citizens gather, murmuring with curiosity. Cleopatra sits on an elevated platform, her gold diadem shining softly. Antony stands nearby, acknowledging the crowd with a measured gesture. The ceremony reinforces Cleopatra's status, but provokes outrage in Rome. In the stillness after the proclamation, a lone attendant rolls up a scroll, hands steady. The moment marks a turning point, setting the stage for escalating conflict with Octavian. As tensions rise, Octavian launches a campaign of propaganda against Cleopatra and Antony. In Rome, senators debate their influence, voices echoing through marble chambers. Back in Alexandria, Cleopatra listens to reports in a quiet council room. An advisor places a clay seal on the table, symbolizing Rome's growing hostility. Cleopatra rests her fingertips on its surface, considering her next steps. The atmosphere is subdued, yet heavy with uncertainty. She understands that perception can shape reality, and that Octavian's words may become as powerful as armies. The quiet scene foreshadows looming war. War becomes inevitable. In the palace armory, soldiers prepare equipment, shields, spears, and helmets. The sharp scent of oiled bronze fills the air. One soldier tightens a leather strap, his jaw set with concentration. Cleopatra oversees naval preparations, aware that the coming conflict will determine Egypt's fate. Plans unfold not with panic, but with steady resolve. Ships are readied in Alexandria's harbor, their masts rising like a forest against the sky. The calm diligence of the preparations reflects Cleopatra's determination to defend her kingdom, even as the horizon darkens with Roman ambition. The decisive confrontation approaches at Actium in 31 BCE. On the western coast of Greece, Antony and Cleopatra's fleet anchors in a sheltered bay. The morning air is cool, carrying the scent of salt and pine. Sailors adjust rigging, their hands moving with practiced ease. Cleopatra stands on the deck of her flagship, gazing across the calm water. Her cloak flutters lightly in the breeze. The stillness belies the stakes. The fate of Egypt and Antony's power hang in the balance. Preparations continue quietly, each task a reminder of the immense challenge ahead. Naval formations take shape. Ships line up in orderly rows, their oars poised. The sun glints off bronze fittings. On a nearby deck, a sailor runs his palm along a smooth wooden beam, checking for splinters. Commanders review signals and strategies, marking plans on small wax tablets. The atmosphere remains calm but focused. Cleopatra's fleet is strong, yet Octavian's forces are disciplined and determined. The quiet anticipation feels like held breath, a moment suspended before action. Every movement reflects preparation, not panic. The steady rhythm of crews readying themselves for a pivotal encounter. When conflict begins, the battle unfolds under a bright sky. Oars churn the water, sending spray into the air. Antony's ships engage Octavian's fleet, while Cleopatra remains positioned with reserves. Signals flutter from masts, guiding maneuvers. On her deck, she grips the rail lightly, the wood warm beneath her palm. The sounds are distant, muted by wind and distance. As the tide of battle shifts against Antony, confusion spreads. What begins as strategy turns into retreat. Cleopatra's ships withdraw, and Antony follows. The moment is not chaotic, but heavy with consequence. The quiet unraveling of their position. Back in Alexandria, news of the defeat arrives. In the palace hall, messengers bow before Cleopatra, delivering reports in subdued voices. She listens in silence, her hand resting on the arm of her throne. The room feels still, the air thick with unspoken tension. Citizens outside whisper about Rome's advance. The city's vibrant streets grow subdued, stalls closing early. A servant extinguishes a lamp, its flame shrinking to ember. The quiet acknowledges a stark reality. Octavian draws nearer, and Egypt stands alone. Cleopatra faces the moment with composure, knowing that decisions made now will shape her legacy. Antony returns to Alexandria, his forces diminished. In a private courtyard, he sits beneath a fig tree, helmet set aside. Cleopatra approaches, her footsteps soft on the stone path. She offers a steady gaze, neither reproachful nor desperate. Their conversation unfolds quietly, addressing the gravity of their situation. A breeze rustles nearby leaves, carrying a cool whisper through the courtyard. The moment reflects shared understanding. Their fortunes have shifted irrevocably, yet they remain resolute in their loyalty to each other and to Egypt. The stillness hints at both the depth of their bond and the weight of impending fate. As Rome advances, Cleopatra secures her treasures within mausoleums and fortified spaces. In a chamber lit by torches, attendants move crates of coins, jewelry, and documents. The scent of burning oil fills the air. Cleopatra inspects a scroll, her fingertip tracing its edge before handing it to a trusted advisor. Her actions reflect strategic foresight, preserving Egypt's wealth should surrender become necessary. The quiet organization contrasts with the growing threat outside. Each item stored symbolizes not greed, but protection of a nation's heritage in the face of conquest. Octavian's fleet reaches Alexandria. Roman troops march toward the city, their formation visible from the palace terraces. Rows of helmets glint beneath the sun. Cleopatra watches from a high balcony, her hands gripping the stone balustrade lightly. The scene is silent, save for distant footsteps and the murmur of the sea. She understands that resistance may be futile. The calm moment marks the threshold between sovereignty and subjugation. The weight of history presses gently yet firmly against the present. Egypt stands at the edge of irreversible change. In desperation, Antony mistakenly believes Cleopatra has died and takes his own life. Carried to her side, he dies in her arms within the palace. The chamber is dim, lit only by a few oil lamps. Cleopatra's hand rests briefly on his chest, feeling the stillness. The moment is quiet, stripped of spectacle. Grief settles like dust in the air, soft and heavy. Antony's death signals the end of their alliance and foreshadows the fall of Egypt's independence. The silence in the room reflects the enormity of what is past, a personal loss entwined with national destiny. Cleopatra meets Octavian, who intends to bring her to Rome as a symbol of conquest. In a cool audience chamber, she stands before him with composed dignity. Octavian's expression remains unreadable. A scroll lies on a nearby table, its seal unbroken. Cleopatra speaks calmly, negotiating for her children's safety. Her hands rest lightly at her sides, gestures controlled. The encounter reveals two opposing forces, Rome's ambition and Egypt's fading sovereignty. The quiet exchange underscores a painful truth. Her future is no longer her own to shape. The atmosphere holds steady tension, heavy yet subdued. Realizing that surrender would mean humiliation and loss of autonomy, Cleopatra retreats to her mausoleum. The stone walls are cool to the touch, adorned with carvings honoring ancestral gods. Torches flicker, casting elongated shadows. She wears traditional royal attire, embodying Egypt's ancient lineage. Courtiers wait outside, whispers echoing through the corridor. Cleopatra contemplates her next steps, seated beside treasures secured for her burial. Her gaze rests on a golden amulet, fingers grazing its smooth surface. The stillness reflects acceptance, a final act of agency in a world closing around her. According to tradition, Cleopatra arranges for her death on her own terms. In a quiet chamber, she sits on a cushioned bench. A basket is brought to her, possibly containing a venomous asp, though details remain uncertain. Cleopatra lifts her hand, brushing the woven lid. Her expression remains calm, resolute. The room is silent except for the faint crackle of torch flames. Whether by snakebite or poison, she chooses autonomy rather than captivity. Her final moments symbolize defiance, a ruler controlling her fate, even as her kingdom slips away. The scene is solemn, not dramatic, honoring her resolve. Cleopatra dies in 30 BCE, marking the end of the Ptolemaic dynasty and Egypt's independence. News spreads through Alexandria's streets. Merchants pause at their stalls, and citizens gather in hushed clusters. In the palace, attendants lower torches in mourning. A hand places a lotus flower beside her body, petals trembling slightly. The quiet acknowledges a profound shift. With Cleopatra's death, Egypt becomes a province of Rome. The era of pharaohs, stretching back millennia, concludes softly, not with thunder, but with stillness. The moment marks both an ending and the beginning of a new chapter under Roman rule. Octavian orders a respectful burial for Cleopatra and Antony. In a serene tomb, stone walls bear simple carvings. Priests chant low hymns, their voices echoing in the cool space. Attendants lay linen coverings with careful hands. A small oil lamp flickers near the entrance, casting warm light. The burial reflects recognition of their status, even in defeat. Octavian understands the power of public perception and honors tradition to maintain stability. The calm ritual underscores the complexity of victory. Rome gains an empire, yet acknowledges the dignity of its last Egyptian monarch. Caesarion, Cleopatra's son, is captured and killed on Octavian's orders. His death eliminates any claim to Caesar's legacy. In a quiet corner of the palace, an attendant folds a child's garment and places it gently in a chest. The small gesture reflects a life cut short, hinting at what might have been. Alexandria moves forward under new governance, its vibrant culture continuing despite the loss. The silence around Caesarion's fate underscores the ruthlessness of political consolidation, even as the city adapts to Roman administration. Under Roman rule, Egypt becomes a vital province, supplying grain to the empire. The harbor bustles once more with ships, their sails catching the Mediterranean wind. Dock workers haul sacks of grain, their movements steady. A Roman official oversees the process, scroll in hand, marking tallies. The continuity of daily life contrasts with the profound political change. Temples remain, markets thrive, and the Nile continues its annual flood. Cleopatra's memory lingers in stories and quiet conversations, a reminder of the kingdom's former independence. Over centuries, Cleopatra's legacy evolves, viewed by some as seductress, by others as scholar and strategist. In a later-era library, a historian unrolls a parchment, tracing her name with a fingertip. Dust dances in a beam of afternoon light. The scholar reflects on her intelligence, linguistic skill, and political acumen. Cleopatra becomes a symbol of resilience and agency in a world dominated by empires. Her story endures not because of myth alone, but because she navigated immense forces with grace and determination. The calm scene honors her enduring influence across time. Let your thoughts drift gently through the journey you've witnessed. The shimmering Nile, the marble halls of Alexandria, the quiet negotiations, and the calm resolve of a ruler facing shifting tides. These moments soften into one continuous thread, reflecting human ambition, love, and resilience. Cleopatra becomes more than legend. She is a figure shaped by intellect and courage, navigating a world in flux. Her story settles into memory like twilight settling over calm water, leaving behind a quiet understanding of history's fragile balance between power and fate. Return now to your own quiet space. The world outside is still, far from ancient courts and distant empires. The sounds around you are soft and familiar, perhaps a faint hum, a gentle creak, or simply your own breathing. Cleopatra's story recedes into the past, part of a vast tapestry of human endeavor. Here, you are safe, steady, and at rest. Let your thoughts ease like the Nile's slow current beneath a fading sky. The night is calm, and history sleeps.